Chapter -30, Professor Triggs, still written by Frank in blue ink. Professor Triggs stood up tall. "No, lying isn't a good thing," she said. "Not good at all." Toby was still on the ground, looking so frightened. "Right," said Professor Triggs. "I'd like all of you to come to my office." My heart sank further and I started to feel a bit sick. Sky, Toby and I walked with our heads down. The Blessos were next to Professor Triggs, talking about their weekend and how they'd blitzed it when they'd won the triathlon. I shook my head because I'd heard on the grapevine that they'd cheated by damaging one of the lead team's push bikes and kicking a hole in one of their kayaks to make it leak. I wanted Blizzard or Miguel to turn up so badly. Why had Decca said that Professor Triggs was good if she sided with bullies? I could see by Sky's face that she felt disappointed. I felt the same. Inside her office, Professor Triggs asked the Blesso boys to arrange the chairs into a semicircle around her desk. Bug-Eye and Basher did this with enthusiasm, clearly comfortable with being favourites of the principal. Once we were all seated, Professor Triggs spoke sternly to all of us about how wrong it is to lie. The Blessos agreed with great enthusiasm. Sky, Toby and I nodded as we looked at the carpet, feeling defeated. "Heads up, please," she said. "It's not good to be overwhelmed by shame. It's just not right to tell lies, is it?" We all nodded, staring at Professor Triggs, our hearts in our shoes. Of course the Blessos were smirking and making nasty signs when Professor Triggs wasn't watching. "It's not good to hurt people either," said Professor Triggs, "and I'm very sorry to learn that people have caused others to fall onto the ground today. That's not right, is it?" Toby's face went bright red when the Blesso boys said, "No way." And then Bug-Eye added, "I hurt my knee. I'd better see the school nurse." Professor Triggs nodded. "In good time," she said. "First, I'd like us to watch a video about why it's not good to lie and why it's not right to harm others. Okay?" We all nodded as Professor Triggs turned her computer screen towards us. She sat on her seat before using the remote control to search for the video she wanted. I was shocked to recognise Blizzard, Angel and Jax in the video. I looked at Sky to see her reaction. She looked appalled. How could Professor Triggs be showing us this video when she was clearly siding with the two worst bullies in the school? The video started by Jax lying to Angel 3 times about how much homework she'd done, and then the video went into fast-forward mode and ended at exam time. Of course Jax failed. She was weeping and Angel was trying to comfort her, but it was Jax who looked straight at the screen and said, "Don't tell lies. The main person who gets hurt through lies is you." Seeing her face and knowing that her message was for the Blessos and not us was almost too much for me. I felt like standing up and telling Professor Triggs what had really happened, but for some reason I just stayed in my seat. The Blesso boys continued to smirk and point whenever Professor Triggs was looking the other way. It was terrible. "So, who gets hurt through lying?" asked the professor. "We do," said Sky firmly, although I could tell she wanted the whole charade to end. "Good," said Professor Triggs. "I'm glad we're clear on that. And now, Toby, I'd like you to pay close attention to the next video. It's about how wrong it is for someone to try and hurt another person. The video was made by some school students who've been bullied." Toby nodded, but I could see his eyes welling up with tears. We watched as several different cruel incidents happened in a school ground. Some students pushed a little girl, then a group of girls called another horrible names, and finally a teacher was shown belittling a student just like the thieves used to. It was horrible watching the video because we felt as if the two thugs were going to get away with everything that the videos condemned. After the videos ended, Professor Triggs smiled at all of us. "It's not good to watch things like that," she said. "It makes us feel sad, and we feel for the people being bullied. We all nodded. How many of you have been bullied at some time in your life? We all put up our hands, except for the Blesso boys, who just sat there looking smug. I think they didn't even understand the question. I knew they saw themselves as kings of the world. Professor Triggs nodded and looked sad. That's not good, she said. Clearly we need to do something at this school if there's that much bullying. We all nodded. The Blessos looked uncomfortable, but nodded belatedly, looking as if they weren't sure what they were nodding about. Now, said Professor Triggs, I haven't asked for all of your stories about what happened today, although I have heard from Bug-Eye and Basher. Professor Triggs smiled at the Blessos, and they looked very chuffed that their story had been heard. But I don't need to hear from the rest of you, Professor Triggs continued. At that point, my heart, which had been in my boots, jumped out of my shoes and ran out of the room. No, I thought. I cannot live with another Isla. This is not right. Has the time virus taken over again? I couldn't bear what I was hearing.